All right, welcome to the Joe Kilgallon Podcast, aka Kilgallon's Pub. What is up, everybody? Going solo mode, baby. Solo on a Sunday night. Hoping to catch you guys on your Monday morning commute to work. Hope everyone had a great weekend, a great week. And I hope you're having a good Monday if you're listening to this on a Monday. If not, then, well, fuck it, man. Hope it was good in the past. I don't know what to tell you. Are people still dreading Mondays? Is that a thing? Do people still wake up going, oh, it's Mondays? All that kind of shit. I mean, when I used to work a regular job, I didn't like Mondays either because it's like, oh, the weekend's over. I got to go back to this grind. But I think that's the wrong mindset to have. I used to be like that. I used to wake up being like, this sucks. Now you got to wake up going, you know what? I'm gonna go balls to the walls. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get my dick wet or my vagina wet. There's gonna be moisture in the air. You know what I mean? That's the kind of mindset you need. You need to go out there thinking I'm going to take the world. And if it's a job that you hate, don't do shit. Just bare minimum. If they're paying you the bare minimum, you give them the bare minimum. That's what we're talking about here.'re talking a little law of attraction. You get what you give. If they're giving you shit, then you give them shit. And be like, hey, why don't you treat me like a prince? Treat me like I'm a royal. We'll talk about the royal family in a second, everybody. I guess I got some thoughts. Treat me well, and then I'll ump my game, maybe. You know, but you can be dicking around. I'm going to dick around too. And then everyone dicks around. That's what happens. Dick arounding equals more dicking around. And then it's all sorts of dicks being around. And that's just too much. Nobody likes that. That's not going to be good for anybody involved at that point. So if you're listening and you're like, I don't like Mondays, well, we got to change that. What needs to happen? How about you wake up and you pretend like it's Friday? That might be something to do. Real mindset thing. I'm a big believer in mindset these days. I fall victim, though. I get into the negativity sometimes, and you got to pull yourself out of that shit. And if you're struggling to do that, then talk to somebody. Get some help. But no, I really believe that. I really do, because it can't be a coincidence that so many of these really awesome people, you ever meet these people and you're like, this guy just radiates awesome. My buddy Chris Redd on SNL, he's on Keenan, the new NBC show. I remember telling him, like, the second time I met him, I'm like, dude, you're one of those guys I feel like I've known for a decade. Only the second time I met him. This probably was about a decade ago, actually. I think like 2011 I met him. Great dude, but he oozes that. I think that's that mindset. If he was one of those dudes walking around going, it's fucking Monday again, and be like, oh, yeah, I know, man. We're all battling. You don't want to be around that guy. And if people don't want to be around you, then, I think you could change that, though. I think you got to wake up and be like, hey, Monday. Guess what? We're going to fuck, and I'm picking the positions. That's right, Monday. I'm not taking shit from you. Shout out to Joey Diaz. He's got a good Twitter account for stuff like that. He pumps you up. He's got some good, I like people who just tweet positive stuff because it's different, I'm not saying I'm against the negativity, but you got to have a point. If you're going to shit on something and be negative, let's try to have some sort of glimmer of hope at the end of it. A little sarcasm, a little something, a little how you do. I'm actually just trying to keep my energy up right now. It's Sunday night, like I mentioned before. Long Sunday. One of those Sundays that I woke up feeling like I'm going to get a lot accomplished. And I feel like I did for the first half of the day. And then the second half kind of kicked me in the ass. I started feeling like all achy and like old. You ever get that? I don't know you guys. I'm in my mid-30s. But there are days where I'm like, I'm 48, right? I'm really a 48-year-old. Been feeling that way. I went grocery shopping, had a Polish woman speak to me in Polish. She was old. Like we're talking, knocking on heaven's door. And she said something. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak Polish. But she was by the milk. I'm like, do you need help with the milk? And she's like, no, my daughter's nearby. And then she said something like, you're very handsome. And then she kind of like grabbed my arm a little bit, And I'm like, hey, bitch, check Twitter, okay? Because we don't live in that world anymore. All right, grabbing strangers' arms. Do you think I feel good about that? I actually did. I felt great about it. But still, she should know. Clearly, she's not woke. That's what my point is. 97-year-old Polish woman grabbing strangers by the arm. A, pandemic. B, let's personal space. So I'm gonna cancel her. She's done. Just fucking around. Can we talk about this Dr. Seuss garbage? Can we do that real quick? Let me check my internet connection here. Okay, it's pretty strong. I thought I got a little notice thing. It's not too strong, but it's all right. But let's talk about this Dr. Seuss kerfuffle, this nonsense, this whatever. I was going to try to rhyme, but fuck that, right? Dr. Seuss. That guy was a rhyming son of a bitch, you know? If he was born in a different era, if Dr. Seuss was born in 1996, which would put him at 24 going on 25, he would have become a rapper for sure. With the amount of rhyming he does, his love of things having a nice little beat to them, you know, iambic pentameter. I don't even know if that's the kind of rhyming he did, but I love using that word whenever I can. Whenever I may, what do you say? Let's eat some hay. Hey, I just may. Fucking shoot him or Gavin. Happy Gilmore. What's going on? Okay. So Dr. Seuss's corporation, because he's dead. That dude died. Basically came out, but they did this shit a while ago. That's what kills me. This whole latest Dr. Seuss thing is another example of why people need to read past the headline. And all sides are guilty of this. Read past the fucking headline. And I know headlines are bullshit these days because they need to get you to click. I understand that. It's a really fucked up thing that doesn't really get talked about enough. And the thing that has kind of screwed up our society over the last decade and a half or so is the need. I really think, what was it that show Newsroom? Talked about how the news should have been free. You know, like the government created channels, television, the airwaves, and they gave them to the public for free. But there was a deal that you had to do the news, but they should have made the news commercial free, because now the channels just compete to see who could get more people watching their version of the news, which is shit, you know. And nobody really gets informed. And I feel like newspapers, same way. The internet came around and newspapers were like, well, yeah, let's put our stuff online. And they found out the ad revenue from that wasn't enough to keep the operations going as people started buying less and less papers, which there's going to come a day where I'm going to miss holding a newspaper. I don't get the newspaper, but when I visit my dad's house, I pop open that sports section. Why not? You know, and it's mostly stuff that I'm like, yeah, I have an app. I know all this news already, but it's still, you know, after a championship, you want to grab the paper, like, you know, the headline, like Cubs win the World Series. That's a cool thing to have. So there will be a time where there's like a sadness when newspapers go away. But when you think about it, actually think about what it takes to print a newspaper. You got these trucks that have to, or these people knock down trees, right? These lumberjacks, these dudes who, last time I met a lumberjack who said the flannel thing is bullshit. Okay, we rarely wear flannel. That's just not true. But I don't know. I would be upset to find out lumberjacks were trimming their sideburns and no longer wearing flannels. That combination would be like, why? That you can fit the stereotype, dude. You know, plumbers have mustaches, cops have mustaches, lumberjacks, crazy sideburns, flannel. I want things to stay how I grew up with them. I don't like change in some regards, and that's all examples of which. But they have to chop down trees. The trees then become paper. They get on these fucking trucks. The trucks lug them to the goddamn newspaper places. The newspapers then use ink to print them. It's just a whole fucking thing. And then they sell them for $1.50 or $2 or who knows what it is. It used to be like 35 cents. And that's a lot of shit. You got to pay writers. I don't know. It seems like a really outdated, archaic thing to do when you could just, you know, but then I say that, but I want books printed. I still like holding a book. I'm not getting into Audible stuff. I like to hold a book. I'm bouncing off the place, but I'm back on books now. So Dr. Seuss's corporation basically did this months ago. That's what I was alluding to. That they decided we're going to get rid of 6 books. Not get rid of, no longer print new versions of them. The 6 books, I think I heard of one, maybe, because it sounded familiar. Mulberry. Mulberry sounded familiar. Something in Mulberry. This dude parties on Mulberry. I think that was the name of it. I don't fucking know. I was going to look up the 6, but what's the point? You guys would all be like, yeah, never heard of that shit. And if you have, Jesus, what's it like to be a virgin? That's what I have to say to you if you'd heard of these 6 books. What's it like never having sex, you loser? And if you're out there listening and you legit have never had sex, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be a dick about it. You'll get there. Or maybe you don't want to. Who knows? Anyway, get the sex. Sex is good. But so this was a while ago. I don't know. The story broke for some reason like a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And then it's all like they're canceling Dr. Seuss. Can you believe this shit? Some dipshit congressman with an Irish last name that always kills me. It hurts me because it's like it reflects on me, I feel like, some way or another. McCarthy. By the way, if your last name is McCarthy, why are we electing you? I think because Joseph McCarthy back in the day was a dipshit. This McCarthy's a dipshit. I just feel like the McCarthy family, you've had enough. There was a Father McCarthy on the northwest side of Chicago that was accused of diddling kids. Paul, by the way, is McCartney. If you're wondering about the Beatles, he's not a McCarthy. It's a McCartney. I don't know. I just feel like the McCarthy family has taken some hits lately, and they're kind of bringing that shit on themselves. So this dipshit's reading Green Eggs and Ham to Congress. Like, I still love that. It's like, no one's canceling Green Eggs and Ham, dipshit. One fish, red fish, two fish, blue fish, all still there. The Grinch, they're fucking killing it. You know what I mean? That dude who rhymes, all of them, they're fine. They're fucking fine. It's these 6 books that had like outdated shit. And if you look at it, was pretty outdated. You know what I mean? Like, you'd have to be hard pressed to be like, well, what's wrong with this? Everybody who saw was like, yeah, that's pretty shitty towards Asian people, given the rough year they've had from people. So yeah, let's remove this stuff. Also, and then the potato head thing too. These companies, these are capitalist choices. They're doing these things to make them more money. I thought I thought we were capitalist country. I don't know, It's just, there's a group of people who I think are angry and they don't quite know why, but they know they're not a fan of change. And so they're taking out their anger, and the anger is manifesting itself in weird ways because there's stuff to legitly be mad about. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the people who are angry probably have legit reasons to be angry, but they're using every little fucking thing because they just can't. I don't know. Therapy. Everyone needs more therapy, I think. Because it's so weird to me to be like, they're not going to print 6 more books that I never heard of. How fucking dare they? And then the comparisons. I shared a video on my Facebook. I rarely go on Facebook, but I feel like Facebook was the clientele that needed to see this video. Where they're like, we live in a country where a song called Wet Ass Pussy is #1 on the Billboard charts. But Dr. Seuss is can't. How the fuck do those two things relate? How? False equivalent. Like, they don't. That's so weird to me. We're in a country where Mr. Potato Head is just Potato Head. And at the same time, I tripped and fell down the stairs. Like, that's like, you know what I mean? They don't relate. I don't understand. We're talking about outdated children's books that no one's ever heard of versus it'd be one thing that the kindergarten teachers across America were like, all right, everybody, put away Cat in the Hat. It's time to talk about some wet ass pussy. Okay. We're no longer talking about, thing 1 and thing 2. We're not talking about that thing in the back of your throat that she wants the dude to hit with his dong. That's where we're going, kids. Okay. Okay. Now gather around. Like, that's not happening. Again, outdated children's books that have some weird references that the company themselves said, yeah, we're going to get rid of these. No one begged them. There wasn't protests outside the Dr. Seuss headquarters. None of that shit. They just decided, yeah, this is stupid. And Dr. Seuss himself regretted some of his early work. He did. He later said, yeah, this was because they changed it. It used to be originally like Chinaman, and they changed it to like Chinese American, and there was some stuff like that got changed while he was alive that he advocated for. No one said shit back then. No one cared. Or they might have cared. They might have been like, oh, good for him, whatever. But now we're in this race to be outraged. Who's going to be the first to lose their shit over something? And because of that, the things that are worth losing your shit over, I feel like they get diminished. And that's sad because there are real things worth like fighting for and getting bent out of shape over. Real things. And if we could get back to that, if we could get back to actually focusing on the real problems of the day, then I think we could actually solve those, because I think people would actually start, instead of seeing each other for what team are you on versus what team I am. I really want us to get to the place where we all just hate politicians. Like, everyone just hates them. Just start, you know what I mean? Because we forget they work for us. They work for us. The smartest people I know in the field of entertainment and show business always, always, always know my agent, my manager work for me. You work for me. I'm paying you 10%. Yes, you work for me. So if I don't like what you're fucking doing, you're gone. Bye. And I think that's why we don't about politicians. When I hear people like being like fans of politicians, I'm like, why? If they do a great job, admire them later. But while they're in office, I think you have to like hold their feet to the fire. It's a serious job. We got to remind ourselves too that the president does not have nearly as much power as 24-hour news networks and the social media make it out to be. It's really not the case at all. So the checks and balances system, which I think was a great idea, and I think you need checks and balances, but I definitely think government as a whole needs like a 2.0. Because and even Thomas, I've said this a million times on this podcast. Sorry, I'm going around in circles, everyone. Jefferson said, who, by the way, was a piece of shit as a person. Jefferson, but some good ideas. Jefferson said we should have a constitutional convention every 20 years because what's good for the country today might not be good for 20 years from now. So whenever people bring up the founding fathers, I'm like, did you read the founding fathers? It's like, did you read the headline? No. Did you read the Constitution? No. Nobody can name more than 4 amendments if you put a gun to their fucking head. I'm talking about average people here. There's 27, by the way, guys. I don't know why I got all bent out of shape out of that. I'm just so sick and tired of like logging on and seeing people fight over things that just like, why do you give a fuck? That it's ridiculous. I can't believe they're doing this to Dr. Seuss right now. What, like, believe me, half the people crying about it don't even realize he's been dead for a while. Like, he's fucking, it's nuts, man. On my last solo podcast, I talked about how there's no reward really in today's culture for just kind of being like just rational, just being like a person who just kind of takes information as it comes and all that kind of stuff, and not being, you know, super far one way or the other. Because I think it's just, I'm seeing more and more examples of that. You know, if you guys ever see me go off the deep end, like far left, far right, I'm talking about far, for both of those directions. No, I'm hurting financially, or I just said, fuck it. And I'm trying to get the bag, as the kids say, because, like what that one country singer got caught on tape saying the N-word, his sales went through the damn roof. And it really is funny because it goes on either side. Like I said, like, so that singer said the N-word on tape. No, I don't know much about Waylon something, not Waylon Jennings, but I think Waylon's his last name. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't even, I'm just talking about my ass at this point, but let me speculate a little bit just for the fun of it. But I do want to let you guys know I don't know the whole story, but I'd heard he'd said that. But he got in some trouble though because they picked him to perform on SNL like the first week or second week. So because he must have a big hit record if they're asking him that early on, and then he went out partying in New York, and they're like, "Hey, dickhead, like COVID's out of control here and all this stuff, so you're out." And then he apologized, and so everyone's like, "Oh, we forgive you. I guess you made a mistake." But then this came out a couple weeks after that. So I think maybe his side was or maybe his side's just like, we have to support our boy, even though he's racist, which is kind of crazy. Or maybe they're trying to spin it like he's not actually racist. He said the word and he didn't know. I don't know what the spin is. Again, I don't know the story like I mentioned a few times. So they go out and buy his records. And then if it's the other way, like when Republicans were like boycott Starbucks because of the holiday cups, which they're basically trying to cancel Starbucks. So both sides are into this cancel culture, whether they label it that way or not. Is that everyone went out and bought more Starbucks. I noticed that. I feel a sense of that when I see someone being done wrong. I remember thinking to myself like, oh, I kind of want, they lost a bunch of followers for doing the right thing. Like, shout out to my guy. Actually, a couple shout outs, a couple new Patreon subscribers. Shout out to Danny Rocket, who hosts the San Ranto podcast. The Sun Ranto podcast. I say San because I think Ron San. Sun Ranto podcast, which is the 69th best Cubs podcast, said by Cubs legend Fergie Jenkins. So thank you to Danny. I remember Danny. Danny, you had a post tweet saying that you lost like 100 followers because you were telling people to wear masks, I think. I remember being like, that's ridiculous. And I remember thinking if I didn't follow Danny and I came across this, I would follow him to help make up for that. Because I've done that. There's a few people I follow because I come across their page or whatever, or their Twitter, where they're like, I did the right thing and now everyone thinks I'm an asshole and I lost my followers. And, you know, I'm not going to stop speaking my mind. I think, you know, we should have universal health care, whatever they're fighting about, or, you know, because I know like that one, I followed that country singer, Jason Isbell. I've heard a couple of songs. They're pretty good. But I'm not really in the country, so I haven't dug too deep. But I remember country music fans got mad at him for something, Or I think he said something like, yeah, take the Confederate statues down. These people lost. And so I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but I appreciate people who are bold and take risks and chances. Um, so I was like, yeah, I'll follow this guy. I'll support him. Yeah, I don't know. I just think the media knows it's these wedge issues are just great fodder. It's just good for business. So, I mean, as long as they keep pushing them, I'm going to keep trying to be like, no, no, no. And I hope I don't give myself an aneurysm over it. And I hope I don't bore you guys going off about it either. Because we got fun stuff to talk about, you know? I mentioned the royal family. Everyone's watching this royal family thing. They sat down with Oprah, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry. What is his last name? So what's her last name? She kept her maiden name, which is fine. I don't care. That reminds me. I remember one time being at a bar like a decade ago, and two people who I knew were fighting outside the bar about whether or not a woman should take the guy's last name. And her whole thing was, well, I think she was in some business where she's like, my name is, I've got my name on cards. I've worked up my name, so I'm going to keep my name. And then he was like, no wife of mine. And I remember laughing because they're both single. I'm like, why are you guys fighting about shit that does not affect you? You know, I agree with her, by the way. Sometimes I see my wife's name with my name now attached because she took my name. And I think like, oh yeah, that's right. Because in my brain, she's still her maiden name because that's how I know her. Any woman I knew before she got married, she's still the maiden name to me and will always be. I can't shake that. You know, if I've known you by, I'm making up a name. If I've known you by Jessica Jones and you get married to Chris Bryant and you become Jessica, actually his real wife's name is Jessica. And you Cobain, you get married to Kurt Cobain's fucking cousin. I'm just saying, being weird now. And you're Jessica Cobain. No, you're still Jessica Jones to me. I don't know why. That's how it is. But I don't care. Do whatever works for you. If you want to keep the name or you want to ditch it or you want to hyphen it, whatever. I don't know why other people would get mad. I remember even saying to him because they were really getting fucking heated about it. And I was the right kind of drunk where I'm like, oh, I can mediate this. You ever in that right zone where you've had just enough amount of beers where you're like, I'm going to come off real smart and I'm in a zone where I'm loose, you know? I had a dream where I had to pitch something. I'd like pitch a project. I'm like, here's the idea for this. And I remember in the middle of the dream being like, dude, you were killing this pitch right now. Like I must have been, you got to have that right amount of booze. And I just explained it to him where I'm like, dude, why would you get mad over what other people do? It doesn't affect you. And then he kind of settled down. He's like, yeah, you know, but people get all bent out of shape about that. Anyway, I don't know. Meghan Markle, I don't think she took his last name. I don't know. What the fuck is Prince Harry's last name? I should know this. I could probably Google it right now, but I'm not going to do that because I don't care that much. Do you know why? Because I don't give a shit about the royal family. I do not. I don't hate them. I don't anything them. If you are listeners in England, the UK, listen, guys, I don't care about your family. I don't care about your royal family. Princess Di seemed like a really sweet person. She seemed to do some really nice stuff. I'm sure there's a conspiracy there that I just haven't read enough about. You know, the one dude was very homely. So I don't know how he even landed Princess Di, but Charles was his name. A lot of Charleses, a lot of Georges, a lot of Williams. Yeah, I don't. And what's her name? Queen Elizabeth is 176 years old. She is part turtle. I don't know how she's that old, but she really is. She's looked the same for a long time. Or maybe she's just one of those women who looked 50 when she was 20. Who knows? That happens. Not really to the English too much. They have, it's more of an Eastern European thing. I feel like English women age pretty well, at least the ones I know. They look pretty good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why Americans are so obsessed with the royal family. Go on Twitter right now, it's just like, I can't believe they're so into it. And my friends who are the most like into democracy love the royal family. Is it just some weird, like, look at this, like they're looking through a time capsule or something? I don't know. I don't care. If Meghan Markle, you're listening, if you were unhappy with them, and good for you for getting away. Harry, you too. You know, if you don't like what's going on with your family, move on. Because as much as family is so important to me, and I love family, but if you're unhappy with your family and they're bringing you harm and messing with your head and you're just not happy, life's short. Say peace out. You guys got to change your ways because I can't stand by and listen to this shit anymore. I respect that too. All right, that's enough of the royal family. WandaVision God, I fucking love that show. I'm just going to put it out there right now. I'm actually sad it's gone. I've got a super crush on Elizabeth Olsen now. I always kind of did, but it's heightened because she is incredibly talented. Every interview I come across, I'm like, this woman is so smart, so cool, and just has a good head about her. And of course, she's beautiful and she plays the part so damn well. I'm like, oh man, Scarlet Witch, what is up? Spoiler alerts, by the way. Oh, kudos to TikTok because TikTok is all over Marvel. And whenever they review WandaVision, they always start off with spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So they tell you, get the fuck out of here. I'm about to do a spoiler. You know who doesn't do that? Twitter. So like people like to shit on Gen Z, but Gen Z is way politer than Twitter or Facebook because I've had so many plots ruined for me because all I did was log on and it was right there in my face. And I know it's hard to do that in text, but you could at least do all caps spoiler alert, and that's enough for me to be like, and I fucking shove my thumb up so it scrolls past your ruining of things. And I know some people are like, well, it aired 2 days ago, so that's on you. I'm like, oh yeah, it is on me that I have a fucking life and commitments. Okay, dipshit. Like 2 days, I'm not even mad at anymore. But I remember people would do it like the show ended at 10 o'clock, 10:01. Here's my fucking take. And I'm like, why do you have to? Don't you have friends? Text your friends. Get a group text going. Talk to them instead of jumping on social media and potentially ruining shit for people. There's some weird need like this. I got to be first. I think maybe that's what social media does. I hate to go back to this again, but maybe social media has trained our brains to all think we're journalists. We're not. Okay? We're people trying to do our best. Leave the journalism to fucking real journalists, and you just, talk about your shit, but try not to ruin things for other people. Be considerate. I think the internet has made people way less considerate because you don't see what you're doing to people. It's all through a screen. Seeing words. Jesus. Yeah. So anyway, WandaVision though. I kind of like that Disney did what they did by making it weekly. I think that's the way to go. HBO did that with Game of Thrones. AMC had that with Breaking Bad. Everyone thinks the Netflix way, the Netflix model of dropping it all at once, was the way to go. I was like, this is the future. Remember Kevin Spacey turned out to be a fucking creep. Oh, did he get canceled? People who hate cancel culture? He's a fucking molester. He should be in jail. Yeah, that's why. Like, here's the thing with cancel culture. Look, I've said in the past that I don't like the idea of it. I just think the term's stupid, and the people who say cancel culture isn't real, but you use the term. I've seen people say hashtag cancel this person, so they're kind of guilty. I just don't like the mindset of being like, oh, someone got a thing. Let's dig through their past and try to find any little criminalizing thing to get rid of this person because it takes up the benefit of the doubt from so many things. You know, there's some stuff where it's like, no, there's an explanation. Let's calm down. And then there's other stuff where in my head, I'm like, that's not cancel. That's convict. That's convict culture. Convict Kevin Spacey. Convict Harvey Weinstein. Convict Woody Allen. These people should be in prison. That's how I view it. I am getting a signal saying the internet's getting a little weak. Why? I don't know what's going on with that. Hopefully the sound is okay, everyone. So I think appointment television, especially given the last year of human beings' lives being so disrupted from what we were used to, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, everyone. So let's hope these numbers keep going down, which is great news. And the vaccinations, it sounds like it'll be enough for all of America by the end of May, which is jumpstart on things. So that's good. But I think that's the way to go. I don't. Netflix, keep doing your thing, obviously, but I'm really liking the every week thing because it keeps a sustained buzz longer. It keeps people talking longer. The one downside I've noticed is the theories, though. A lot of fan theories and people guessing and the speculation of what's going to happen next. And I bet they're going to do this. People put that out there and it's fun. But if you get too into those, if it doesn't happen or it goes a different way, you get disappointed where it's like, you got to just enjoy what's coming your way. Be present because I loved WandaVision. I thought the ending was great. I know a lot of people were like, I was expecting a surprise twist or more cameos and more shocking this. I'm like, the story was fantastic. It was about Wanda and Vision. They kept it there. It was about this love story and the way they showed her power and what she went through. And my God, I cried. I won't lie. I cried. I cried twice this week. I cried at WandaVision because poor Wanda Maximoff and all the pain she went through, especially that episode where they showed it. I don't think I cried at that one, but that final scene really got me. And yeah, I cried at WandaVision. I cried when I found out Lola Bunny's got a breast reduction. That was a bummer. I'm obviously talking about how they released photos of the new Space Jam, and Lola Bunny is not as stacked as she was in 1996, which is funny to me. It's hilarious, actually. There's some stuff that is just really funny on the internet. And the people who get twisted over it, it's like, come on, everyone's being silly. I saw some tweets where like men are so disgusting they're going to sexualize a cartoon bunny, and the comments were like, "You see that ass though?" And I'm like, "That's so funny. That is hilarious." Fuck that moments like that. I'm like, "Oh, I love the internet. So good." So it makes it fun to be like that's like the stuff that makes it so much fun to be a guy. Women can have fun like that too. If not, I encourage you to. You should be like, "Where's that Bugs Bunny dick?" Like I don't know. It's funny. That stuff's funny. People being upset about funny not having the boobs she had before. That it was hysterical. I saw posts where it's like, what senator do I have to write a letter to? People saying, thanks, Biden. Like, yeah, that stuff, that's funny. That's really good. So, yeah, I take the joy with that as much as I take the annoyance of people being like, they got rid of Dr. Seuss books I never heard of. I don't know why I make these voices for these people. I feel like this is a pretty solid voice for them, though. But yes, if you have not watched WandaVision, I highly recommend it. Don't listen to the next 2 minutes of what I'm about to say, and then you could check back in. I'm going to have another Patreon bonus episode. After I'm done recording this with you guys, I'm going to hop on Patreon and give Patreon a couple cool stories of what happened to me over the weekend. That's just for you Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys so much. We're really starting to grow this thing. Shout out to Herb Lawrence. I mentioned 2 new ones. I gave a shout out to Danny Rocket. Herb Lawrence of 670 The Score, who's got a great podcast called Lockdown White Sox. I almost forgot. He's one of the best human beings you'll ever meet. And his Illini are killing it. Kevin Olsen is another Patreon subscriber whose Illini are killing it. Any other Illinois fans? I might just have to keep up or give shots to everyone. I've shouted out everyone who's subscribed. I'm pretty sure so far. If not, I will try to sprinkle that in throughout. And the people who are in the top tier, you get a credit on. You get a co-producer credit on all the podcast clips on YouTube. Any clip of from the podcast that gets on YouTube, you get a credit for. So yes, the acting was fantastic throughout. Catherine Hahn is amazing. I think she's got a future in the MCU. I think she's going to be in more movies. The way they kind of left it, where it's like, more stuff's coming for you. I love what they did with Monica Rambeau. She was great in it too. They showed how she's developing her powers, which was really awesome. There was a tie-in in the post-credits scene that's going to lead to Captain Marvel 2, which I believe comes out in 2022. And also that ties into the post-credit scene of Spider-Man Far From Home, which the next Spider-Man movie, which I think is No Way Home, they keep the home thing going with these new Spider-Mans in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's coming out Christmas. Black Widow is supposed to come out sometime in May. That's going to be my return to the movie theater. I think by then I'll be able to be vaccinated and all that stuff. And even so, they'll probably spread out the movie theater. By the way, there's some place. I'm going to say this. If the Chicago baseball teams, the Cubs and the Sox, don't have people in attendance, because all 28 other teams are going to have people at some, like, reduced capacity, of course, I'm going to lose my fucking mind, because that is just such bullshit. You could have bars 50% capacity, but you can't have the Cubs and Sox outdoor stadium. You can't. It's so easily to social distance. But this is me giving shit to the White Sox. But you ever go to an April White Sox game? You could socially distance incredibly well. You could have you in a football field between someone else. I mean, it's really something else how socially distant you could be there. No problem. I know it's an attendance joke. It's a cheap one too, but I'm making it. Same with the movie theater. I've been to movie theaters where, you go to an afternoon show on a weekday, which is one of the best things about being a comedian, is having that free time right there. 6 people there, if that. It's you, your girl, some old guy jerking off in the corner where you're like, this is not the movie for that, pal. Like, there's always. So I'm just thinking when the movie theaters open back up, I'll just go to a show like that. I'm pretty sure the Tuesday showing of Black Widow at the AMC in Skokie isn't going to be slammed wall to wall. I'm fairly certain of that. So I'm not going to go thinking like, oh no, obviously I wash my hands. What am I, nuts? It reminds me of empty movie theaters. Remember when Elizabeth Banks, I like her in a lot of her acting stuff, she made her first time directing or something. She directed like the reboot of Charlie's Angels. They did a reboot of it. It bombed. Like nobody went to go see it. I don't think people cared about the last few. The first one, I think people liked, but they did a bunch of sequels. So anyway, she went to reboot it and she was pissed and she blamed men, which was just so dumb on her end. Saying like there's 37 Spider-Mans and everyone goes to see that. It's like, yeah, this because he's huge. Spider-Man's very popular and now it ties into a huge universe of movies that are billion-dollar movies every time they come out. Like Marvel movies make bank, right? It was a bad comparison on her end, and critics didn't even like the movie, so it didn't get great reviews. It was just making excuses, and you shouldn't make excuses. You just don't take the loss. Say, hey, we'll figure it out next time. I think it's a good movie. Hopefully people catch it when it hits on demand. Just do it that way. Have some dignity. So anyway, it was really funny though, because that was a tweet. And then the first comment was, I went to it with my girlfriend. There was no one else in the theater. It was pretty cool, actually. Didn't need to turn my phone off. It made me laugh didn't need to turn my phone off. Which is kind of a funny thing where it's like you look around a theater going, fuck it. I'm not even going to turn the brightness off in this thing, right? It's going to light up the theater. All right, everybody. I do have an announcement for another podcast. The regular podcast will be out Wednesday. So I'm kind of doing a Monday, Wednesday this week. Wednesday, I'm coming up on the 3-year anniversary of this, 2018, 19, 20, 21. Now, when I start this, 2018. Yeah, 3 years. I'm terrible at math, apparently. But the podcast coming up on Tuesday, first non-comedian since I had Mike Riccio on about 10 episodes ago, maybe 15 episodes ago. He was a fitness expert and owner of Mar Health and Fitness. I'm going to have author Jesse Foley, who has written 4 books now. I'm currently reading one of them. And she's from Chicago, Irish American girl. So we're going to have some cool talk about that. What's it like to be a published author? Any advice you may have to young writers? Going to talk about the books. And I'm sure we'll talk about Dr. Seuss maybe. Actually, I don't know. I don't want to bother with that. It'll probably be an old story by then. So that episode will be out Wednesday. And what else? You know what I mean? Just, check out the YouTube. A lot of clips on there for you. And guys, just, thanks for listening to this podcast. I have fun doing it. And yeah, you guys are the best. So all the best to you guys.